It's a beautiful September afternoon here in Pittsburgh. It's getaway day, and the Cubs already 6-4 on this road trip. They'll try to take 3 of 4 in this series. A couple of playoff hopefuls doing battle here on WGN. Great to have you with us alongside Jim DeShays. I'm Len Casper. The Cubs with a big win. You're intense.
I'm interested, man.
You're ready to go. Kyle Hendricks will take the ball today, looking for his second win on this trip.
Yeah, well, 3 one-run games already in this series. John Lester outstanding in the second game of the doubleheader, and then Jake Arrieta outstanding again last night. So now it falls to Kyle Hendricks. He's making his 4th start against the Pirates, but they have not faced him since the middle of May. 0-1 with a 5.63 ERA. The Cubs have seen a whole lot of Charlie Morton over the years. Not yet this year, though. Here in his home ballpark, he's been quite good. 6-2 in 10 starts with an ERA right at 3.
Cubs have taken 9 of the first 15 in this very interesting season series, and a wild game last night. The Cubs victorious in 12. We'll see what will transpire here in the series finisher coming up next. Still brewed the hard way. This bud's for you. Honda. Start something special with a great deal on a Honda now at your Honda dealer. Napa. Home of Napa know-how. Ford. America's best-selling brand, inviting you to go further in our fuel-efficient vehicles. Check out our entire lineup at your Ford store or at localfordstores.com. Subway. Make a smart play for savory subs this season. Score more flavor at Subway restaurants. Subway, eat fresh. And by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Cubs baseball in high definition on WGN TV is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. Consistently the best weather during a series I think we've ever had here in Pittsburgh. Temps in the upper 70s. And it has been a fun set. The Cubs have won 2 of the first 3. And a chance to get within 2 games of the wild card leading Pirates.
Yeah, so obviously a swing game here today. Can leave town 2 games back of Pittsburgh or 4 behind the Pirates. 3 games remaining with the Pirates on the next homestand. Cardinals have kind of steadied their ship. They maintain a relatively comfortable lead. The Pirates had moved to within, what, a game and a half at one point? Back up to 4 games now. And you see where the Cubs are positioned in the National League wild card. 3 behind the Pirates. Well out in front of the Giants, who are 7.5 games behind.
Cubs' magic number to clinch a postseason spot is 10 with 17 games left. And now their batting order brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Fowler and Schwarber and Coghlan, the outfield. 1, 2, 3. Rizzo, Chris Bryant had 3 hits last night and really good numbers all year against this Pirate team. Miguel Montero will catch and hit 6th. Addison Russell moves up to the 7th spot ahead of the pitcher Kyle Hendricks. Tommy La Stella gets a start at 2nd, and he'll bat 9th.
Pirates defensively are aligned this way this afternoon. Travis Snider's in left because Andrew McCutchen is not in the lineup today. So Starling Marte, who's just a tremendous defender, he made a heck of a play last night. He's out in center. The youngster Polanco will cover right field. Harrison Gung, Walker Alvarez, third to first. Generally a good, solid defensive club. The one weak link would be Pedro Alvarez, who's made a bunch of errors there at first base. Francisco Cervelli behind the plate. You can run on him. And Charlie Morton is on the mound for the Pirates this afternoon. Started the year on the DL. He was recovering from hip surgery, so he's only made 20 starts. He's 9-7 with a 4.02. Quality starts in each of his last 3 outings. And Morton, a sinker baller, when he's on his game, will get a lot of ground balls.
There are 4 umpires. Greg Gibson works home plate. Chad Fairchild is at first. Pat Holberg at second, and the crew chief is Jim Joyce over at third. You notice the Pirates are wearing their alternate camouflage jerseys, honoring the military.
Or duck hunters.
So ready to unpack that suitcase. Cubs have their final homestand coming up beginning tomorrow. 10 games over 11 days. Cardinals, Brewers, Pirates, and a makeup against the Royals. Leading into the final week of the season on the road at Cincinnati and Milwaukee.
Well, this has been a very interesting series. All 3 games decided by 1 run. The wild pitch has been a big play in this series, as has the stolen base E2.
First pitch is lined to right for a base hit. Dexter Fowler's on. So the leadoff man is on. He'll try to score his 95th run of the year.
That lefty's far better against Morton than right-handed hitters this year. So Joe's got a lot of left-handed bats in the lineup today. Ground ball guy. Normally Joe likes to hit and run in these situations, but I don't think he wants to do that with Schwarber. More inclined to see Fowler try to run at some point, I would think.
Yeah, you mentioned stolen bases earlier, and it's worth noting the Cubs stole 5 last night as Schwarber takes a strike. That tied their season high. The other time they stole 5 was against the Pirates as well. The Pirates pitching staff and catchers have allowed a major league leading 133 steals this year. The Cubs have allowed 127. That gets through. Kyle Schwarber with a base hit. First and second, nobody out.
That ball hammered. That would have broken a bone. Schwarber last night hit a rocket off a advertising sign out there in right field that would have been probably halfway across the Allegheny and not hit that sign. This young man hits the ball hard. No chance for Neil Walker. Well, a little bit of a chance, but not much. But clearly a solid single off the bat of Schwarber. And early trouble here for Charlie Morton. There's the sign I'm talking about. I mean, he pinged that thing about halfway up, and it wasn't on the way down when he hit it. If you got bonus points for distance and noise, that would have been worth something, but it was foul.
And a little extra pub for a worthy cause. Pirates Charities. Strike called on Chris Coghlan. Jorge Soler is on his way back, activated officially from the DL after helping the Myrtle Beach Pelicans win the Carolina League Championship, the Mills Cup. Soler went on the DL August 24th with a left oblique strain. So he hopes to nudge his way into the starting mix out there in right once again. That's a curveball, and it misses low. Morton, a big guy, 6'5", 225, 31 years old, drafted originally by Atlanta. Their 5th pick in 2002. Jeff Francoeur, Brian McCann among those taken ahead of Morton by the Braves that season. Made his debut with the Braves in 08, traded to Pittsburgh the following year. Lots of injuries in his career, including the hip surgery JD mentioned. That could be 2. Walker, and gets away. Gunn could not handle it. And hopefully Schwarber is all right. He gets up slowly. The bases are loaded with nobody out.
Yeah, doesn't look good, man. He went in hard on an awkward angle.
That'll be an error on Jung-Ho Kang, and Schwarber taking a little stroll.
And bad feed by Walker upset the timing of the play. Threw a little change up there to Kang, and that's a tough play when you got a guy like Schwarber barreling in on you and reach down and handle that throw. So Kang will get the error, but for me, that's on Walker. Walker's part of that play was a lot easier than Kang's, but all attention now on Kyle Schwarber as he tries to run this off. Gives the thumbs up, says he's good to go.
Bases loaded, nobody out. And again, defense, big part of the narrative. That was the case last night. Errors and big time defensive gems. Each team committed 2 errors. And here's Anthony Rizzo, struggling as of late, but the game-winning sac fly in the 12th last night came up big when needed, as has just about always been the case this season. 1 ball, no strikes.
The challenge with Morton is to either get that low ball in the air or force him up in the zone a little bit. Sinkers, curveballs, and a changeup for Morton.
Bounced wide of first. It's foul. Single error. Setting it up for the Cubs just as a lot of the fans are getting settled into their seats. Morton from the far first base side of the rubber, and another ground ball on the infield. They get 2 this time, and Kang is hurt. Looks like he is grabbing his left knee or shin as he and Coghlan came together. So that'll go 4-6-3. The Cubs grab the lead with Clint Hurdle and 2 of their, or at least 1 of their athletic trainers, along with possibly an interpreter. He is writhing in pain right now.
Coghlan barely avoids the baseball to begin with, and then Kang not able to get airborne before the contact comes from Coghlan.
That looked bad. The foot was planted and the leg bending in a very awkward fashion.
He just takes that extra little side step to position himself before making the throw, and that did not enable him to get airborne before they hit. If you're not planted and you take that hit, you're going to be fine. But if that foot is on the ground, that looks like a pretty significant knee problem for a guy who's been a very valuable piece for this Pittsburgh club. They have a lot of position player depth, but McCutchen obviously is the main guy, and then Kang and Marte probably the next 2 in the pecking order when you talk about value for this club this year.
How about that? Back-to-back plays. Schwarber with a minor injury and able to stay in the game, and now this one.
Well, you knew it was going to be a key in this ball game with Morton going for the Pirates and Hendricks for the Cubs. Infield play would be, obviously a focus with 2 sinker ballers, guys who get a lot of ground balls.
That is a clean slide. You see Coghlan easily able to reach the bag. That's how you're supposed to do it. They say baseball is not a contact sport, but it is. And they've tried to take some of that contact out at home plate.
Yeah, and to a certain extent in the middle of the infield, too, with the neighborhood play not being reviewable. They let middle infielders cheat a little bit if there's an accurate throw.
Well, the Pirates have a lot of depth. We have chronicled that throughout this series, but if they're going to be without him for any length of time, that really hurts them. He has had a terrific rookie season.
Jordy Mercer will come in and replace Young at short.
Concern for Jung Ho Kang in the Pirates dugout. Looks like Chris Coghlan very concerned as well. Nobody trying to hurt anybody. He was just trying to break up a double play. No RBI for Rizzo. It is 1-0 Cubs. Schwarber's at third, 2 outs, and here's Bryant.
And this obviously becomes a very important at bat. You got bases loaded, nobody out. You're thinking big number. Pirates get a double play, and now it falls to Bryant here with 2 outs to try to get home this second run. Chris, big night last night.
Curve misses outside. Yeah, he had 3 hits, 2 doubles. Knocked in a run. Stole a base and scored a run. 93 RBIs on the year. And he's had a good road trip, hitting 300. 2-0.
Hopefully Schwarber doesn't stiffen up and he's able to stay in this ball game.
Two and one. Morton with 8 DL stints since 2009. That's a strike, and it's 2-2. That particular shot, you're going to see Jason Mott in it all day. The reason is that is where he has positioned himself the last 2 games, and because the Cubs have won both, baseball players are a bit superstitious by and large, so he'll remain in that shot.
Perfectly logical thinking. Got to be killing Jason not to be involved right now. He's a high energy guy, loves to take the ball.
Full count, 3-2. So Charlie Morton overhauled his mechanics back in 2011 to do the Roy Halladay thing. I mean, there was a point, JD, where it was exact. Similar now, but not quite a carbon copy.
He changed his game too. He used to throw a lot of 4-seam fastballs and try to blow it by it. He's got a good arm, and he sacrificed some velocity for movement.
In the air, right center. And it's Polanco to make the catch. The Cubs get 1, and the Pirates are coming up. Let's check out the Pirates starting lineup. 17-2 during the day here at home this season. Polanco, Marte, and Walker at the top. No Andrew McCutchen. Only the 8th time he's been out of their lineup. Mercer now in for Gong. It's Alvarez, Cervelli. Travis Snyder gets the start in left with Marte moving to center. Josh Harrison in at third with the pitcher Morton batting ninth.
Cubs defensively set up this way. Schwarber, Fowler, Coughlin. They've covered the outfield. It's a big one here. A lot of acreage here at PNC Park. Bryant, Russell, La Stella, Rizzo third to first. And Miguel Montero behind the plate. And for the 29th time this year, Kyle Hendricks is the starting pitcher. He's won 7, lost 6. A lot of no decisions for Hendricks. In a number of those games, he left with a lead. He has pitched to a 4.08 ERA of his 28 starts. 3 have come against Pittsburgh, all early. Last time out, a winner. First time he had won in better than a month. He beat the Phillies, went 6 2/3, allowed 3 runs.
He has been Mr. No Decision. More than half his starts, he has not gotten a decision. 7 times has left with a lead. Did not get a win. So he faces Polanco. And a strike call. It's a fastball at 87.
He'll go pretty much 87 to 91. Looks to sink the ball. He'll also cut his fastball. Plus changeup. And mix in the curveball on occasion as well.
Polanco 6'5", 230. .29 doubles, 25 steals, and 0 for 1 today.
Montero set up over the inside corner and a little cut fastball right on the inside edge. Mr. Polanco quickly retired.
Marte playing center with McCutchen out of the lineup. Huge defensive play in left field last night. And he nailed Tommy La Stella in the 11th at second base. It was his 13th outfield assist. That leads the National League. The Pirates outfielders have 33.
Yeah, just a spectacular play by Marte out there. That's deep in the corner and left. He was able to get to it before it got to the wall, and then perfect throw to second base.
Ground ball to the shortstop, Russell. Marte is out.
Marte, like McCutchen, he's got all the tools. I guess the one big difference is McCutchen's a little bit more patient at the plate, but Marte can do it all. He's got some power, he's got speed, and he's got quite an arm.
Two quick outs, and it's Neil Walker. He had 2 hits last night. 2 for 3. Was lifted for a pinch runner in the 8th. Switch hitter batting lefty. And he fouls back. Cubs had the bases loaded, nobody out in the top of the first. Could only get 1 as Morton limited the damage, although the Pirates lost their starting shortstop in the process. Softly lined in the center for a 2-out base hit.
And having to make that change, that means Jordy Mercer is now in the cleanup spot in the Pirate batting order. He's more of a bottom of the order type hitter. Bad pitch, sinker down and away. But a very solid approach by Walker.
Mercer looks at a strike. Product of Oklahoma State. fouled away. Pedro Alvarez on deck. Nice attempt by La Stella as he laid out, but he couldn't get it. So Mercer not in the lineup, but in for the injured Gong, and now the Pirates with 2 on and 2 down for Alvarez.
Yeah, beware the late addition to the lineup, right? Whether it's an early game injury or a scratch just before the game, it seems like those guys oftentimes step up and have a big day. Again, not a bad pitch, breaking ball out away from Mercer off the end of the bat a little bit. The Pirate hitters, with Hendricks, they're seeing him for the 4th time this year. They know what he's all about. It's not about trying to throw the ball by you. He places the ball, changes speeds, moves it in and out. And against that type of pitcher, you're usually focusing on trying to stay through the middle of the diamond.
It's generally not what Pedro Alvarez tries to do, especially in this park. He tries to park it in the river.
Focusing on the middle of the Allegheny.
1 ball, no strikes. Going back to 2012, only Giancarlo Stanton has hit more home runs than Alvarez among National League players.
Respecting that power, trying to get him to expand his zone. Alvarez will do that, but he'll also take his walks.
If you chop off 2012, Anthony Rizzo is 2nd in the NL in homers since 2013 behind Stanton. 3-0.
Well, if you're going to nibble, commit to it. Don't throw him a cookie here on 3-0.
Yeah, that is one of your pitching tenets.
Yeah.
That a lot of guys nibble early and then get behind in the count and throw one right over the heart of the plate.
Yeah, there you go. That's a perfect 3-0 right there. Just painting that outside corner. And whether it's intentional or not, umpires tend to be a little generous on 3-0. Sometimes you'll get that borderline call on 3-0 that you wouldn't have gotten earlier in the count.
Popped him up. This will reach the seats behind the tarp. And that left field line. Fortunately, we haven't seen the tarp in use in this series. We did in Philadelphia. That looks perfect. Just stay right there. The cover is beautiful. It's a work of art. Don't touch the painting. Called strike 3.
Great comeback.
So he does come back from the 3-0 start to that sequence, and the Pirates strand 2, 1-0 Cubs. Along with Joe Madden, log on to WGNTV.com right now and click on the WGN Sports Game Zone banner to connect to all the up-to-the-minute stats and information while you're watching at home. Game Zone is sponsored by The Great Escape. Pools, patio furniture, hot tubs, and more. Everything you need to have more fun at home this summer. Is that how you spell it? Maybe he meant to say he's playing hockey. An extra O.
I don't know. I don't know how you spell hooky when you play hooky. Is it E-Y or just Y?
I'm going to go with no E, but we're going to be off school. I guess it doesn't matter how you spell it, right?
Maybe
base hit Montero.
Maybe he should be in school. Well, second inning starts as the first one did. The theme early in the game yesterday was missed opportunities for the Cubs. They had a lot of base runners against A.J. Burnett. We're not able to do a whole lot of damage, however. Same thing can be said for the first inning here today. Looking for that crooked number. Had to settle for one.
Addison Russell had a front row seat for the game last night. Joe Madden did not get him into the game, and I think part of the reason was he needed him to get a rest. He played a doubleheader the day before. We talked about Clint Hurdle spotting his starters. No McCutchen today. And these are all big games, and I think if these two managers were managing teams struggling to get into the postseason, they wouldn't admit this. I think McCutchen would be in there if the Pirates were 6 games out or something.
Sure.
But you've got a little cushion. Bounce to third, fair ball. Toward the corner, slowly rolling. Montero to third. Gary Jones is going to send him. The relay throw to the plate, not in time. RBI double, Addison Russell, 2-0 Cubs.
Yeah, well, that run doesn't score, not on that play, if McCutchen's playing, because Marte would have been in left. But Snyder does not have the wheels. That was a battle of wills there as Mickey was ready to drop anchor at third, and Gary Jones said, no, sir, keep on going. Inner third up a little bit. Russell didn't really crush it, but he hits it hard enough in a good spot right down the third base line.
Hendricks squares and takes ball one outside.
The legs of Montero have been put to the test the last couple of days. Stole a base, stole his first base of the year last night.
He needs a rest. Bunted foul off the shin guard of Cervelli. 1-1. All right, according to Twitter, I've got 3 different spellings of hooky. And I'm good with any of the spellings, but I think the one we saw with the EY works. We'll give that young fan the benefit of the doubt.
Well, clearly he had made an adjustment on his poster too, so he had it one way initially, and then he must have done some research. Maybe he was on Twitter too.
It's a strike call, throw to second, and gets away, but Russell was not aware of that fact until it was too late. Catcher's throws, by and large, in this series have not been particularly good, have they?
No, there's been some errant throws, and there's been some missed opportunities to keep the ball in the infield out at second base, too. That one does not cost the Pirates.
Expecting a 2-strike attempt, and he does, and he bunts foul, and he strikes out as a result.
Talking with Joe earlier this morning, the point of emphasis for him next spring, pitcher bunting. Cub fans, let's go. The Cubs return home tomorrow afternoon. Man, this is going to be fun. Final homestand of the year. The Cardinals, the Brewers, the Pirates are in town, and then the Royals for a makeup game. For ticket availability, visit Cubs.com. The joint will be jumping.
There's Tommy La Stella, who's in its second. Starlin Castro started the first 3 games of the series. And he's put up terrific numbers against Morton as well, but he starts the game in the dugout.
Yeah, there had to be some temptation to play Castro again today with the numbers against Morton, but I think Joe just wanted as many left-handed bats in there as possible.
Pulled to right. Fair ball. Here comes Russell. La Stella motoring towards second. He's got a double, and it's 3-0. Jumped all over Charlie Morton early.
And no harm now for Hendricks not getting the bunt down. La Stella picked him up with that double into the right field corner. Morton with that fastball right over the heart of the plate. Really hasn't established anything today. The breaking ball and off-speed stuff.
I think that was a splitter that was up 85 miles an hour.
There's nothing to get the Cub hitters off the fastball.
So Ray Searage out to talk it over. Pirates just announcing a left knee injury to Jung Ho Kang, but we don't know the severity of it yet. He's being looked at. And we'll give you an update later as we hear more.
It didn't look good as he was coming off the field.
Here's Fowler. Single and a run in the first inning. Career high 95th run this season. So back to bunting, and we had a shot of Castro. He laid down a perfect squeeze bunt to give the Cubs their second run last night. He thinks that's the first squeeze bunt he's ever had at any level since he signed with the Cubs. I don't remember one.
Joe said he kind of had to talk him into it. Joe was fearful of the ground ball double play, and he said if he didn't get the bunt down on the first pitch, he was going to put a hit and run play on. And Castro said, "Yeah, I can do it. I can get it down, but I hit this guy pretty good too." He was kind of pressing his case to swing away.
Fouled back. What a turnaround this year versus last year in a lot of ways. But just against the Pirates, the Cubs went 5-14 last year. They lost 7 of 10 here and 7 of 9 at Wrigley Field. This would be their 10th victory against the Pirates if they can get it today. On a hop to second, and Walker gets Fowler. Stella's at third, 2 outs. Schwarber the batter, and he'll face a drastic pull shift on the infield.
Pirates 50-24 in their home ballpark, identical home record as the St. Louis Cardinals, so they're not used to losing series here. This would be a nice series win for the Cubs if they could take 3 out of 4.
The Pirates are 10-0-1 in their last 11 home series, so they have not lost a home set in their last 11. Schwarber pops it up. Harrison makes the catch, and we're at the time of the year where you leave it all on the field. Miguel Montero going first to home and taking a little breather.
CHNTV.com. The blog is sponsored by Jeff Vukovich, your nationwide insurance agent serving the area for 37 years. To join the nation, contact Jeff at jeffvuk.com. Nationwide is on your side.
Strike one from Hendricks to Francisco Cervelli. 3-0. The Cubs lead. Cervelli will be followed by Snyder and Harrison. Hendricks was going into his windup, and Cervelli needed an extra second.
Looks like Kyle has made it a point of emphasis to make sure he goes inside on the right-handed hitters here today.
Cervelli came over last November in the offseason from the Yankees. The left-hander Justin Wilson. They needed to replace Russell Martin, who left via free agency. It broke up the Wilson-Watson lefty tandem out in the bullpen. They still have Tony Watson, but no Wilson.
Yeah, Wilson's a Yankee. Martin's a Blue Jay.
Cervelli's making under $1 million this year. Bryant will charge and get him. Never wanted to throw a pitch at Wrigley Field through September 19th. Take part in the fight against cancer by helping raise funds for the Lester Madden, Mott, and Rizzo Foundations in support of pediatric cancer research and awareness. The top contributor from each organization gets 2 tickets and the chance to throw a ceremonial first pitch at the September 20th game. Visit Cubs.com/letsgogold for details. Inside on Travis Snyder, 1 ball and 1 strike. Second stint as a Pirate for Snyder, and he cranks one to deep center. Fowler is back. He'll watch it go into the batter's eye area. That is a first home run for either team in this 4-game series. 3-1.
Snyder back in Pittsburgh after being with the Orioles earlier this year. Hits home run number 4. It's down in the zone a little bit, but he drops that back shoulder and tees off on it. Straight away center field. An impressive swing of the bat here by Travis Snyder. We get the Pirates on the board.
One and one. Foul tipped by Harrison, and it's 1-2. Cincinnati native, went to the University of Cincinnati, 6th round pick of the Cubs in 2008. Debuted with the Pirates 2011. Hard to believe, only 1 home run so far in the series for both teams combined, and this is the 4th game. Harrison, an all-star last year, hit .315. DL time this season with torn left thumb ligaments. He held on a pitch in the dirt. 2-2.
Yeah, Harrison super utility guy. Just played so well last year early on that he forced his way into the lineup. He can play all over the field. Jake Arrieta last night went 8 innings, allowed 2 runs, only 1 earned. And the bullpen was outstanding.
Foul tip for strike 3. Third punch out for Hendricks.
Took him 9 pitches, but ultimately got him with that cut changeup.
Morton, the pitcher, career .073 hitter. Fastball right down the middle, and he swung through it to make it 0-2. Normally, when you look at a guy's on base percentage and it's double what his average is, you say that is really impressive. But
when it's 0-31 to 0-62, you don't get too excited.
Called strike 3, and the inning is over. Cubs lead 3-1 after the Snyder homer. Cubs baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Still brewed the hard way. This Bud's for you. Travis Snyder getting the Pirates on the board. Cubs lead 3-1, and the Boo Birds are out here as Chris Coghlan is announced. It was his slide at second base that caused Chung Ho Kang to come out of the game. Curve strike.
Well, understandable that the fans would boo. That's what fans do when one of their players gets hurt, but it was a clean play.
Pulled foul.
Nice play down there.
There you go. Giving up the helmet to make the play.
Tremendous technique. Quickly off the stool, squares up behind it.
That is not Susie Cool, but that was a Susie Cool-like play. Our favorite name among all the ball girls, ball women, ball dudes, ball boys, ball people.
Ball folk.
Swing and a miss for strike 3.
A lot of breaking pitches to Coughlin. That's going to be a key for Morton if he can get the command of that breaking pitch. Cervelli always entertaining.
Yeah, he plays with a lot of flair.
He had one yesterday, a ball in the dirt. He spun around, he was looking all over for it. It was actually in his mitt.
Rizzo hit into a double play in the first inning. Was on that double play. The Cubs scored their run, and that's when the gong injury occurred. Alexander asks us on Twitter, what happens if the Cubs and Pirates finish with the same record? Well, if they're both in the playoffs and the wild card teams, it would go down to head. So a win today and the Cubs would clinch the season series. That's significant. Only when a playoff spot's on the line or it's a division title on the line would you have an extra
game.
Game. Ball 4.
And you see the challenge that pitchers face when they try to work Anthony Rizzo inside. He covers the outside part of the plate so well. You feel like you have to pitch him in, but it's hard to get called strikes in there. As long as Anthony's patient, he's going to work a lot of walks when pitchers employ that strategy.
Bryant flied to right in his first at bat. Talked to him today about those home road splits that we referenced last night. I joked, we should talk about them again today because when I mentioned them last night, you had 3 straight hits. He said, that's pretty normal, right? He said, I'm still getting used to all the different ballparks. And he pulls one to left. Snyder can't get it. Rizzo on his way to third. Bryant to second with a double.
Tell you what, he's done a lot of damage in this ballpark. He's hit for a high average here. Bunch of extra base hits. And again, that ball really well hit, but that's a play that maybe Marte makes. There's been one, possibly 2 plays now that have been difference makers with McCutchen on the bench, Marte in center, and Snyder in left. Low fastball down and in. Driven out there. Snyder was deep. And Marte gets that one. If he was positioned as deeply as Snyder would have been, there's a good chance he wouldn't have been.
Montero the batter, the infield moving in. In the air, not very deep. Marte will make the catch. Rizzo tagging, and he's going to stay there. And he would have been out. Now, Snyder was in the area, but that was Marte's ball all the way. Usually the center fielder, and we chronicled his throwing prowess.
Through a strike. They're emphatically calling off Snyder. Well framed by Cervelli.
Throw tracks had it as a strike. They will walk Russell intentionally with the pitcher on deck. Pitcher back to hitting 8th today after hitting 9th the last 2 games.
Kind of a no-brainer decision there for Hurdle with the base open and Russell coming up. Already down a couple and 2 in scoring position.
Three on, 2 down. And the pitch to Hendricks is a strike. Hey, Big Diesel Bob is tuning us in Hawaii. It was a local 6:30 a.m. start there. Big cup of coffee and Cubs baseball.
Yeah, a little Kona coffee. Maybe a little coconut omelet. Breakfast pina colada. Go get them.
Swing and a miss. Cubs leave the bases loaded. They lead 3-1 in the third.
Schedule beginning tomorrow. 3 with the Cardinals, then the Brewers are in town, followed by the Pirates. All Central all the time, and then a makeup game with the Royals. Ford, America's best-selling brand, invited you to go further in our fuel-efficient vehicles. Check out our entire lineup at your Ford store or at localfordstores.com. Cub fan enjoying a beautiful day here at PNC Park. And a 3-1 Cub lead as Kyle Hendricks sets to work the bottom of the third. Gregory Polanco.
Did I miss anything?
You missed the Ford, the Cubs' upcoming schedule.
Okay.
You missed a little Cub fan running through the stands with his bear claw.
I'll watch the replay later. Some may file this under the TMI category, but sometimes it's fun to peel back the curtain a little bit. This is a huge press box here in Pittsburgh. And
the
broadcast booth is a long way away from the facilities.
Yeah, a couple cups of coffee. Got to make the run.
So you gotta go back out, and you gotta go
past all the riders.
Keep going.
Usually you have to stop and say hi to somebody.
Keep going. Still haven't found it. See the very right side of the press box.
Can we get a remote camera in there?
No, that'd be a bad idea. Deep center, Fowler's back on it. Gone, another one to the batter's eye. This time it's Polanco, and he thumped it, and it's a 3-2 ball game.
And Blanco just 23 years of age, much ballyhooed hitting prospect for the Pirates. Having a decent year, not a great year, but there's a lot more in there. He's a very talented guy. He goes down through the baseball, puts backspin on it, and I think once he learns to drop that back shoulder and lift the ball, you're going to see more power. He's kind of got a Jason Hayward-like swing. This time it pays off for him in spades. There's your Xfinity Speed replay. Second long ball allowed by Hendricks today. Xfinity, your home for the most live sports.
What happened here? Did Marte think he got hit?
He gets hit a lot.
Well,
this is the Polanco. That ball's off the plate. He went out and got it. Dead
Here's
center. Here's Marte.
Knob of the bat.
Okay.
Rick Solfield down at third. Nick Leyva across the way at first. On a hop to Bryant. Marte 0 for 2. Right now is a great time to plan for your 2016 Cubs spring training experience at beautiful Sloan Park. Go to Cubs.com/Mesa to place a deposit on season tickets and secure the best seats available. Individual spring training tickets go on sale in January. Be sure to visit Cubs.com/Mesa for the latest updates. Neil Walker takes a strike. Pirates runs coming on solo shots to center, and Walker just got hit. Second time he's reached. Single back in the first.
Spazio's not going to waste any time. They're going to get somebody up in the bullpen.
And again, you've got expanded rosters. Arrieta and Lester helped you out a lot here these last 2 days. But you've got a short start from Hamill. You've got Dan Herron, who has struggled. He goes tomorrow. You've got a bullpen day on Saturday. So this is not an ideal situation to have Clayton Richard up this early. I prefer to be able to save him for Saturday.
Yeah, and there's two ways you can go. If you decide to make an early move with Kyle, you can run Richard out there and try to get him stretched out, get 3 innings or so out of him, or you could just piece it together based on matchups. You have that many arms out there. Not, there's a number of guys out there that haven't pitched a whole lot here lately, and highly unlikely some of those guys like Medina would be used unless it was a blowout type game. But this time of year, managers they hate to relinquish leads.
What was your line? Beware of the guy who comes in early or late. They've got a play now on Mercer. Meanwhile, Walker inching down the third base line, and the tag applied. A huge out. 2 down in the inning. Mercer's 2 for 2.
Yeah, good day at the plate. Bad decision on the bases, and the Cubs make a nice play to get him. I think at some point in that sequence, Walker's probably got to try to score. Because even if they throw him out, Mercer's going to move into scoring position, so it would have been worth Walker's while to try to race home here. But this is on Mercer. He's just too aggressive with that turn at first base.
So we will try to piece together how that out was recorded.
8-6. 8-6-3-4-3. Jenny.
I was going to say it's Tommy Two-Tone's album cut.
See Chad Fairchild motioning that he was going to be out for leaving the base pass anyway.
Alvarez high and deep. Right field. Coughlin is back at the wall. She's gone. A 2-run homer for Alvarez. And the Pirates lead 4-3.
Well, long balls really have not been an issue for Kyle Hendricks this year. Certainly they are today. A couple of solo shots and now a wall scraper by the big fella. He's got light tower power. He did not get all of that one, but he got enough of it. Number 24 for Alvarez. First pitch breaking ball. He was confident he got enough of it.
Two 2-0 on Cervelli. Cubs with all kinds of chances to get more than the 3 they had to this point. Pirates have answered with 3 home runs. Three and 1 on Cervelli. The left-handed hitter on deck, Snyder, who took him deep in the second. So Kyle may need to get Cervelli here. It could be done for the day. Chopped foul to third.
This is Cervelli's first real chance in his career to be the primary catcher with the Yankees all those years. He was the backup guy. He's had more at bats this year than in any season in his career.
It comes at 3-2 and it's fouled. I mentioned he's making under $1 million. That's significant for a team like the Pirates. They have to get good value. Russell Martin signed with the Blue Jays, 5 years, $82 million. Pirates just couldn't afford him. So while he's making $7 million this year, and eventually it'll go up to $20 million per season. Cervelli making just a small fraction of that. They have made some very shrewd moves here, haven't they, over the last few years? Neil Huntington, their general manager. A lot has been written about Clint Hurdle, the old school manager, buying into the new school concepts and the analytics. Swing and a miss, strike 3 to end a 3-run inning. Polanco and Alvarez home runs. 4-3 Pittsburgh.
question you asked me.
What did
Pirates have made some shrewd moves. And the inning ending, I never answered.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for answering.
Tomorrow's the final Budweiser Bleacher Friday, and we're going to turn singles into doubles. Tomorrow, all Budweiser Bleacher fans 21 years of age and older will receive a 3/4 length sleeve Cubs top, pictured there. It's lovely. Plus, the afternoon will include fun social media interaction throughout the game. Visit Cubs.com for details. I didn't want you to think I was blowing you off.
No, I asked it somewhat rhetorically, assuming you would answer correctly because you're just a nice guy, even if you disagreed with me. Although I'd prefer you disagree. If you felt that way, but yeah, they've become a powerhouse here in the National League Central.
The big challenge in baseball these days, especially for some of the smaller market clubs, is to identify those pieces that you're willing to lock up long term. And if you do it early enough, you can save yourself some money. Give the young player the guarantee, the security of a multi-year deal, and as he blossoms into a star player, all of a sudden he becomes a very club-friendly contract. Charlie Morton, the pitcher here, he's in year 2 of a 3-year, $21 million deal.
So he is working with a lead for the first time in this ball game, and that ball is foul. Alvarez nearly nicked it while it was still fair.
Good bid by La Stella for his second extra base hit down into that right field corner. Doubled last time, drove in a run.
I think Alvarez is asking the first base umpire, Chad Fairchild, how he saw it. From our perch, it looked like if Alvarez had touched the ball, it would have been fair. In the air, late break by Polanco, but plenty of time to get there, and he's got it to get La Stella. And back to the top, and Fowler for the third time.
Cubs have put a lot of pressure on Morton here today. They've crossed home plate 3 times, multiple base runners in every inning. They've left 5 on so far.
Popped up off of third. Mercer going after it, and he will not have a play. They've got Harrison, the third baseman, over with Walker and Alvarez. We'd love to see your Cubs selfies. Hashtag WGN Cubs on Twitter. Is that Matt Caesar with a young Cub fan?
I believe it is.
I like it.
Here's a little bonus trivia for the good folks at home to work on. You can play along too if you haven't seen this, but I'm guessing you've seen this. This is from the Stats game notes the other day.
Okay.
Andrew McCutchen, Chris Bryant currently tied. They're in the top 5 in the National League in RBIs. 4 times previously since 1950, a Cub and a Pirate have ranked in the top 5 in RBI at the end of the year. I'm going to give you the years, and folks at home can grind away on this. 1958.
Okay.
1965.
Okay.
1972 and 2000.
Call strike 3 to get Fowler. Well, I can give you the Cubs, I think. I think most Cub fans could. Generous call there by Greg Gibson. I'm going to go with Ernie Banks in 58.
Writing down your answers. I'm not going to confirm nor deny.
I'm going to say Billy Williams has got to be one, if not both, of the others. Ron Santo would be my second choice. And Sammy Sosa in 2000. Am I close? I have to give you the Pirates too?
Confirm nor deny.
Okay.
I'm
going to say Willie Stargell's involved in that mix as well.
Okay. We'll answer this question in full during the next half inning.
58 Pirate. When was Ralph Kiner a Pirate? It's a strike on Schwarber. 1-2. You say 2000?
Yeah,
the 2000 Pirates. That one really is going to stump me.
Yeah, the toughest gets were the 58 Pirate and the 2000 Pirate.
Okay, the answer to come: 4-3 Pirates in the fourth.
Cubs MasterCard debit card only available at your local Wintrust Community Bank. Go to wintrust.com/Cubs to learn more. Member FDIC.
Got a new pitcher for the Cubs. Kyle Hendricks out after 3 innings. And it is left-hander Clayton Richard, 32 years old. Recently turned to 32.
Clayton suffered a loss in Philadelphia the other day, but really threw the ball well. 4 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, didn't walk anybody, struck out 4.
Runs scored on a wild pitch.
Did a whole lot of that.
Okay, so let's get the answer to our Pirate Cub RBI question.
Yeah, you were all over it. You nailed the Cubs.
Snyder bounces to Rizzo. Okay, hang on. We'll get the answer. Let's step aside and see what's coming up on WGN. Along with Alex Trebek, I'm Len Casper. Cubs and Pirates. We'll wrap up this series. Pirates lead 4-3.
Ooh, good try. Banks, 58. Frank Thomas for the Pirates in 58. Williams and Stargell both in 65 and 72. And Sosa and Giles in 2000.
Ryan Giles. And now Bryant and McCutchen back to the mound to get Harrison.
Yeah, of that group, only Banks in 58 led the league. Number 29, and this is the anniversary of Ernie's debut.
That's right. It was 62 years ago today. Ernie Banks made his major league debut as a Cub versus Philadelphia, September 17th, 1953. One strike on Morton. Late swing, ground ball, Rizzo and Clayton Richard. Pretty easy 1, 2, 3 frame for him. Cubs are down a run as we go to the 5th.
Bank.
Pay off the Ernie Banks note. He would hit his first home run on September the 20th back in 1953. The home plate umpire was Frank Sikori. He would later be umpiring second base 17 years after that, when Ernie hit number 500 at Wrigley Field.
Good luck charm. Dan Herron celebrating a birthday today.
35?
Sounds right. Well, Cubs got to come from behind here. Morton has settled down a little bit after a lot of early traffic.
Strike one on Coghlan. Behind him. That was not a fastball.
It's an overcooked breaking ball. And we saw with Rizzo last night, there was one thrown behind Anthony. It's, you know, the reaction, the typical reaction is to move backwards, and had Chris done that, that ball would have hit him and he would have had his base. Not that I'm arguing he should jump into a pitch at his ankle.
Hit hard into right center toward the alley. Cut off by Polanco. Little bobble. Coghlan on his way to second. He's going to get in. That's a double for Chris Coghlan.
Yeah, it's good base running there. He sees that ball headed towards the gap. Once you see that outfielder start to retreat in this big yard, you know you've got a chance to get extra bases.
Tying run in scoring position with no outs.
See Polanco start to take that angle out towards the wall, and then a little bobble doesn't help him either. Sell out of the box, make no assumptions, press your case, you can find an extra base.
make a good song. You just rhymed case and base, and it's a good segue because Charlie Morton is a songwriter, guitar player, and a pretty talented musician in his downtime. Taught himself to play guitar. Backdoor curve misses outside on Rizzo.
Yeah, I would say the modern player. The most diverse group of players in the history of the sport in terms of being educated and talented, guys that can play multiple instruments, speak many languages.
Pulled to deep right, way back and gone, and the Cubs lead 5-4. Number 30 for Anthony Rizzo.
There's a fifth inning ambush. Leadoff double, and then Rizzo follows with a laser shot into the seats and right. Home run number 30, RBIs 91 and 2. They're trying to go down and away, and that ball drifts down and in. Again, that was the changeup.
So Rizzo hit 32 last year. The aforementioned Billy Williams had 5 30-homer seasons. They're the only 2 Cub left-handed hitters to have multiple 30-home run campaigns. Cubs' first blast of the series. And a hug from the bench coach. John Maley, the hitting coach, loved it.
Well, it didn't take long for that one to get out of here.
Good RBI race for the team lead. Bryant's knocked in 93. Rizzo now 92 RBIs, and he shoots one to left. Double homer single to kick off the 5th inning.
Fans getting a little antsy here. Want to see Clint Hurdle make a move to the bullpen. Morton had a 3-up, 3-down 4th, but other than that, there's been all kinds of base runners. The old 3rd time through, catching up to Charlie Morton.
Joe Blanton heating up.
First and second time through didn't work out so well for Charlie either. He's allowed 9 base hits now. A lot of hard contact.
Cervelli went out there and said, I'm not out here for any other reason than the pitching coach told me to come out here because they're warming up in the bullpen, and I'm just going to keep talking until Greg Gibson tells me to come back. Okay, we're done. Does the catcher ever say that?
No, because if you're the pitcher, you don't want to hear it. You should disguise your motive if the manager sends you out there to talk to the pitcher. You just don't want to hear it.
Well, is there any doubt that's what he was doing?
No, none whatsoever.
That will be it. Here comes Clint Hurdle. Another wild ball game here in Pittsburgh, and the Cubs lead 5-4. Time for a pitching change. Had retired last year after being released by the Angels, but giving it a second go, and he's put up some good numbers here with the Pirates.
Yeah, we saw the veteran righty in the ball game last night. Worked a scoreless 8th inning. Not a hit and a walk. Had a couple of punch outs.
15 appearances earlier this year, including 4 starts with Kansas City. Designated for assignment in late July and then dealt to Pittsburgh.
Fastball a little bit below league average in terms of velocity. Likes to sink it. Throws a lot of sliders. Curve and a change.
It's Bryant at first. Coghlan started the inning with a double. Rizzo then homered, line shot to right to give the Cubs the lead again. Bryant's single ended Morton's day. And now it's Joe Blanton. Another throw.
And Blanton's got pretty quick feet. Gets rid of the ball in a hurry when he comes home. Cervelli, as we mentioned earlier, has not been very good at throwing out base runners, just 17%, well below league average. Cubs stole 5 bases in the game last night.
It gets past Alvarez. Bryant will head to third. Montero will stop at first. An error on Alvarez.
Yeah, that's the trade-off with Alvarez. He hit the big home run, but he gives up runs too.
Well, the Pirates, they have a bunch of guys who can play first base. Michael Morris, Travis Ishikawa, Sean Rodriguez, Corey Hart, who's on the DL. But 2 guys who are starting there the most right now are actually third basemen by trade, and that's Alvarez and Aramis Ramirez.
Alvarez struggled at third base, especially with throwing. Made a lot of throwing errors, so they moved him over to first base in hopes that he'd be able to be adequate there. And they love to keep that power bat in the lineup, but it's always that's the push and pull. Love to have the power, but he gives up a lot defensively.
Russell. Pirates swings and misses.
Defensive alignment here today has been exposed with Snyder in left. A couple of plays that Marte probably makes. He did not make, and now Alvarez at first base commits his 20th error of the year.
Another chance for a huge inning. And already struck for 2 on the Rizzo home run. We are near the bottom of the order. The pitcher Richard is on deck. The 1-2. Base hit center field. Bryant is in. 6-4. Russell on now for the 3rd time, and he's knocked in a pair. And Joe Madden is talking it over with his pitcher Clayton Richard about the strategy here.
Well, it's a breaking ball that didn't do a whole lot. Just sat up there at the top of the strike zone for Russell, and he lashes it right back through the middle of the diamond. Closed the book on Morton. 6 runs charged to him this afternoon. Harrison getting with Blanton to talk over the bunt defense here. Ideally, you want to push this ball down towards third base.
Squares early.
Oh, I don't know, Greg. was outside.
That gets away. Both runners will advance.
Wow. What a break, man. The Pirates have been very bad defensively here today. Talked earlier about the wild pitches being such a big part of this series. This is just a clank by Cervelli.
The pitch could have been called a strike.
Yeah. Just whiffed on it.
So they'll bring their infield in. Passed ball charged to Cervelli. So Montero now at third, Russell at second, and Clayton Richards going to knock in two. Montero and Russell will score. Richard to second. He's going to drop anchor there. It's 8-4.
Somebody's going to give you a gift. Take it full advantage of it. Thank you very much. Wow. How about Clayton Richard?
5-run fifth. Still nobody out.
That's a great swing of the bat. It's Mr. Baseball right there. Pirate fans are going to light up Clint Hurdle. Why didn't you start McCutchen? Why did you leave Alvarez in the game? Why didn't you pull Morton earlier? Why did you use Blanton?
Well, that's what happens with raised expectations, and Clint Hurdle is a big reason why those expectations have been lifted. Stella took it. 3-1.
Went with a long look in, thought he had the strike zone. It was over the plate. And the question is, was it high enough?
Clayton Richard now with 20 career RBIs. He's picked up his 8th career double.
It really stings the Pirates. He was with them in their minor leagues earlier this year.
That's right.
Opted out of his deal, and that's when the Cubs picked him up. He's like, hey, fellas, you could have had me. Just bring me to the big leagues.
On the ground, base hit. Richard will be sent. Here comes a throw to the plate. Not in time. 9-4. 6 runs in.
Second hit, second RBI of the day for Tommy La Stella. Doing some damage here are the Cubs at the bottom of the order. Russell's been good. Montero's been on twice, scored twice. Well, everybody getting into the mix. Just leans out and brushes that one out there into right center field for an RBI single.
Another pitching change. Morton and Blanton did not record an out. And the Cubs have the lead 9-4. Pirates booty. Yeah, the Cubs taking some here this week. We'll be back. It'll take place January 15th through the 17th at the Sheraton Chicago Hotel and Towers. Book your hotel stay now. Weekend passes go on sale later this month. Stay updated by visiting Cubs.com/convention. He's dressed up as Pirates and not very festive at the moment. Left-hander Bobby Laframboise is on.
Joe Blanton didn't get anybody out. Laframboise, the lefty, limited big league time this year. This is just his 5th appearance.
From Downey, California, to Rio Hondo College and the University of New Mexico as he faces switch-hitting Dexter Fowler, batting right-handed. Former Mariner. Remember, Rizzo homered earlier this inning. He's got a decent chance to bat again. Base hit left field. Lostella to second. Double, homer, single. Error, single, double. Single, single. That's what has occurred here in the 5th inning. Schwarber, the 9th Cub to bat here in the 5th.
Hurdle's going to get Tekulve up here in a minute. Laframboise, 2.98 ERA at AAA Indianapolis this year.
Pitch to Schwarber. Bunted foul with the shift. He was trying to catch Josh Harrison off guard down at third.
Probably wouldn't try that with a righty out there, but with a lefty on the mound, not a bad idea. Still a lot of baseball yet to be played, but a comfortable lead and an easy win would be nice. 3 one-run games so far in this series. A lot of tight games on this entire road trip. Cubs have lost some games late.
On the ground, Walker, Mercer, no double play. Fielder's choice for Schwarber. 1st and 3rd, 1 out.
Now, we talked earlier in the year about Chris Bryant and his surprising speed, and I think National League teams are learning that about Schwarber too. He can get down the line pretty well. Long feed to second base, not an easy double play, but Schwarber scoots pretty well.
Austin Jackson will hit for Coghlan. Joe going defensive mode here, and obviously righty now and lefty. Platoon advantage, but also Jackson will come in and play right.
Had a big knock in the game last night in the 12th inning.
Rolled foul. First 6 batters of the inning have scored.
How many guys do you know have 2 capital cities in their name?
One.
That's all I know. Austin, Texas, Jackson, Mississippi.
That one will go right to Walker. A 4-3 double play, and the inning is over. Where do we start? How about the 2-run homer by Rizzo, because that gave the Cubs the lead. They would then tack on 4 more. 9-4 in the 5th.
Bottom of the 5th. Cub fans, here's your opportunity to register to win the chance to purchase 2015 Cubs postseason tickets for games played at Wrigley Field. Go to Cubs.com/postseason to register and learn more about this postseason ticket purchase opportunity. The Cubs will conduct random drawings from among eligible fans who successfully complete the registration form.
As we thought would happen, Jackson stays in and plays right. Clayton Richard a chance now for a win.
Hard luck loser last time, and now an opportunity to grab one. 1, 2, 3, 4th for him. Ian Rizzo handling the 3 ground balls in the inning. Couple ground balls to Anthony, one back to Clayton. And another one. It's a 2-man game. Bad stretch for Clint Hurdle to watch his team give up all those runs while his guys meekly ground back to the mound. Wow, this is a record pace.
The 3 unassisted, 1-3, 3 unassisted, 1-3, 1-3. The plays so far with Richard in the ball game.
Everybody else can just take a break. It's a little PFP he's got going out there.
And strike. Neil Walker. JD, seeing some very sad news. It's being reported. One of your former partners and a Hall of Fame announcer, former Cub announcer Milo Hamilton has passed away.
I've been talking to some people down there in Houston. I knew it was imminent.
88 years old. Had been with the Astros since 1985. Cub fans certainly remember Milo. He called Hank Aaron's 715th home run. So
they just lost Gene Elston the other day too, another Ford Frick Award winner, longtime Astro broadcaster.
Condolences to Milo's family. 9-4 Cubs. Right now for your chance to win 6 meals from the Simple 6 menu from Subway. Subway, eat fresh. Message and data rates may apply. Rizzo had the game-winning sac fly in extras last night. A go-ahead 2-run homer in the 5th today. And on the outside corner for a strike. We just mentioned the passing of former Cubs announcer and Ford Frick winner Milo Hamilton. What stood out about his work to you, JD? I think the dramatic calls. He obviously the Hank Aaron home run, but nobody could grasp the moment on radio, especially quite like Milo could.
Yeah, well, he's very old school in that regard. That a lot of times, if you were watching the video of what he was calling, it wouldn't necessarily match up. But that's what a lot of old time guys did. They created drama, and they, sometimes the routine ground ball to short would be a lot more than that. But yeah, he was all over the Aaron 715th call. You still hear him on the baseball channel when they tease one of their shows. You hear him, and this is a moment they've been waiting for. He could really whip the crowd into a frenzy. A tremendous energy. When I was working with him as he got towards the end of his career, as he was slowing down, he still managed to get there for the first pitch of the game.
I never asked him. He had the stopwatch, right? Was that to time commercials or interviews?
I think interviews.
Okay. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Rizzo. Off from Boyce with the pitch, and a fair ball against the shift. Rizzo to second with a double.
Well, double this time, home run last time. And for Southwest Airlines, how far did it fly? The distance of this laser shot off the bat of Rizzo, 398 feet. It had not been a particularly good road trip for him, but trending upward here the last couple of days.
Bryant has 5 hits the last 2 days, including 2 in this ball game, a double and a single in his last 2 trips.
Milo had all those catchphrases. He's hotter than a depot stove. Well, the Pirates today, he would have said they're handling it like hot rivets.
Richard Hidalgo was doggy, right?
Mm-hmm.
He'd bark and he plays.
There was an occasional woof. Nicknamed Glenn Davis, the Big Bopper.
2-0 to Bryant. Swing and a miss. He changed him up. I'm sure they'll have a moment of silence tonight before the Astros and Rangers in Arlington, Texas, going for a 4-game sweep in that series. They're now a game and a half ahead of the Astros after winning the first 3 games of that series.
Yeah, and they jumped all over Dallas Keuchel in the ball game yesterday. Perhaps really hurting his Cy Young candidacy in the American League.
Henry had Holy Cow, Jack had Hey Hey, and Milo had Holy Toledo.
And Bill King out in Oakland was a Holy Toledo guy too. They were battling Holy Toledos.
We may have to develop a Holy Middletown on Kyle Schwarber home runs. Like another Ohio town. 3-2. He walked him. One of the most famous calls in baseball history. Here's Milo.
Here's the pitch by Downing. Swinging. There's a drive into left center field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron. The fireworks are going.
Yep, that was his signature call back in 1974. Pulled foul. Cubs have 2 on, nobody out, leading by 5.
Probably have enough, but why not get more?
Fly ball to right and deep. On the track, you saw Polanco take a look back. He's got room. Rizzo tags and moves to third. And once again, let's step aside and see what's coming up on WGN. All Cubs here in the middle innings. They have sprinted out to a 9-4 lead, trying to take 3 out of 4 against the Pirates for a long homestand. at Wrigley Field, and a win today would get the Cubs within 2 of the top wild card spot. Russell shows bunt. It is ball 1.
I'm thinking about a little safety squeeze here with 1st and 3rd and 1 out. And obviously you're always looking to score more. You're still only in the 6th inning, but Joe would love to, just give his high leverage guys a day off here after a 12-inning game last night. He would prefer not to use Strop, Rodney, probably Rondon not available.
On the inside, 1-1. A defensive looking bunt, barehanded play, save. Rizzo got in. Good effort by Alvarez, but Rizzo got under the tag of Cervelli.
We're talking a lot about Alvarez's defensive shortcomings. He makes a beautiful play there. That's a tough read for Rizzo as that ball is popped up, but it ultimately got down, and apparently he got in under the tag. Scoop toss underhand a little high. Cervelli had to reach up for it.
Cervelli shaken up on that play. Clint Hurdle out to look at him with one of the Pirates athletic trainers. Looks like they're checking out his lower right leg, ankle, or foot. And has there been a challenge?
Yeah, they've got the headset on, so they're going to look at it. Looks like the foot got in. I haven't seen anything definitive. Certainly nothing that would think that they would overturn it. Ooh, that was a little more outish there, wasn't it? That one, it looked like, it kind of went frame by frame there. It looked like the tag was applied just before Anthony got to the base. Funny now, if we always keep scorecards, and I know a lot of fans do too, especially when they're sitting in the stands. If you're keeping a scorecard, you have to wait now at the end of some of these plays to make sure you don't have to edit your scorecard. His front foot never got to the plate. That was the key. If his front foot had been on the plate instead of out in front of it, I think he beats the tag.
Looks like the call has been made in New York. And they have overturned it. They'll go 3-2. Joe utilizing the bunt a lot more often here as of late, and could come in handy as we near October. Didn't work out this time. Two outs in the inning. Here's Richard. He doubled in 2 and scored in the 5th. Strike call. Swing and a miss to end the inning. As we remember, Hall of Fame broadcaster Milo Hamilton.
To get to the best matchups in baseball. Reserve your place in line for history in the making. Join the season ticket holder waiting list. It's easy. It's free to register. For details, visit Cubs.com/waiting list.
Cubs leading big 9-4. Jordy Mercer 2 for 2. Came in for Gong, who got hurt in the top of the first inning.
6 batters against Richard. They have not hit the ball out of the infield.
That is still the case. Backhanded play, Russell, and a dig by Rizzo.
Good work on both ends. Deep short, low throw, well picked.
You know how I know Rizzo liked that throw? Because he dug it.
He did dig it. Quite get through that throw, but a nice pick by Rizzo. Don't want to open any doors here. Just play good tight defense. Don't walk people and force the Pirates to do a whole lot of hitting to beat you. He's a well-grounded individual.
Rob Scahill has Chicago ties. He's up in the Pirate bullpen. And I don't mean neckties with the skyline. I mean he's from the area. Richards' 1-2 pitch is in tight.
Yeah, that's the thing about Richards. You see that sinker is 91 to 93, but every now and then he can turn one loose when he decides to go four-seamer up. Yeah, that one 95.
Sharply hit on the ground out into left center. Schwarber will collect it. Alvarez 2 for 3.
Got another ground ball. This time Alvarez able to find a hole. Sharply hit ground ball.
Michael Morse will bat for the catcher Cervelli. Once again, congrats to Mark Johnson and the Myrtle Beach Pelicans for winning the Mills Cup. That's the Carolina League Championship. They swept Wilmington. And also we want to give a plug to their media relations manager and fine play-by-play broadcaster Nathan Barnett. Nathan, thanks for all your great help and leadoff man reports. Out in the left center again. This time it's Morse. First and second for the Pirates with one out.
Morse comes off the bench to deliver a solid single. It's not willing to go down without a fight here.
Off the bench, 3 for 4 today for the Pirates, Mercer and Morse. And Morser, if you just like to combine them.
Still waiting further updates on Jung Ho Gong, the Pirate shortstop who was hurt earlier in the ball game. We know it's a knee, we just don't know the severity of it. It kind of looked like done for the year as he came off the field, but we'll find out either later on in this game or later on today. Could have been.
The Pirates trailed this game 3-0 going to the bottom of the second. Snyder, Polanco, and Alvarez homered over the next 2 innings to chase Kyle Hendricks. So they had a very brief lead. Justin Grimm. Biggest inning of this series, though, a 6-run, 10-batter 5th inning for the Cubs. Line and caught in a double play, and it would have been a triple play had there been nobody out. Inning over. 9-4 Cubs. Can. Groovy Train, that's the farm. Here is Chicago area native Rob Scahill.
26 appearances for the Pirates this year, and he's been effective. A .230 earned run average.
Product of Willowbrook High School in Villa Park, Illinois, and then went to Bradley University. 8th rounder of the Rockies, 2009. Chris Stewart now catching. In the air the other way, Snyder makes the play. Here comes Dexter Fowler. 9-4 Cubs in the 7th. Just got a text from former Cub Jody Garrett. He said, guess who else went to Willowbrook? Me. Good to hear from Jody as Fowler grounds out. 2 outs.
Scahill missed some time with forearm tightness earlier this year. Was dispatched to the DL. This is his first year with the Pirates.
Four years at Bradley. Graduated from Willowbrook in '05. Played baseball, basketball, and football. Hometown listed as Lombard. Pitch to Schwarber is a strike. Ground ball. That is Mercer to make the play. Stretch time in Pittsburgh. All Cubs 9-4.
game summary. Cubs hitting shoes on today. 14 hits, 9 runs. And back and forth early, and then the Cubs with a huge 6-run 5th inning. Rizzo's been big. La Stella having a big day. It's a man to hit the ball out of the ballpark, just not frequently enough. Honda Dream Garage Sales event now at your Honda dealer. As you see Christian Orfia stretching out those legs. He takes over in left. Javi Baez takes over at second.
Harrison fouls. Richard has been terrific. Left center. Fowler on the move. He will not get there, and it's going to hit the warning track and bounce into the bullpen. And a book rule double.
Harrison getting his second look at Clayton. Ready for that sinker. It's down and in a little bit. Puts a good swing on it. Justin Grimm was up a little bit last inning and appears to be throwing again in the Cub bullpen. I mentioned earlier that Joe would like to stay away from Rodney and Strop and Rondon, but if the situation calls for it, he'll pull the trigger. And again, I don't know about Rondon. He threw a lot of pitches last night.
Yeah, I can't imagine he would use Hector today. Two 2-0 on Chris Stewart. First plate appearance, just came in to play defense. Swing and a miss, 2-1.
Cardinals come to town. 1:20 ball game tomorrow. Dan Herron, the birthday boy, will pitch for the Cubs tomorrow. Lance Lynn. The Cubs really knocked around in St. Louis. Start of this road trip, he'll go for the Cardinals.
Bullpen day on Saturday against Michael Wacha. Russell to Rizzo. Runner at third, one out. Carlos Martinez, John Lester on Sunday. Polanco homered to straightaway center in the third inning. The Pirates have pitched so well this year. 4 has been a really good number for them. They've got 4 runs in this ball game. They're 69-13. And they score at least 4 runs. They're down by 5 today. Right field and deep. And he just missed a home run. It's going to be a long single to knock in Harrison. 9-5. Polanco with his second RBI hit of this ball game.
Yeah, when they start to elevate against Clayton Richard, that usually is an indication that you're getting a pretty good measure. Maybe he's getting fatigued and leaving some pitches up. Joe Madden's going to make the move to the bullpen, bring Justin Grimm in here. A couple of knocks, but a line-out double play to end the 6th, but double and near home run here in the 7th. The Pirates have scored another run.
We're required to say yeoman's work by Clayton Richard as he exits.
Good work on the mound today. And how about at the plate? Ripping that double into the alley out there in left center, all the way out to the north side notch to drive in two. Impressive stuff by Clayton Richard. Mazda conviction, creativity, courage. This is the Mazda way.
So he goes 3 1/3. And charged with 1 run. It could be 2, but Grimm is hoping to avoid that with Polanco at first and Starling Marte at the plate. We have not seen Andrew McCutchen today. He was not in their lineup, but I would bet we'll see him if the Pirates get close here in the final few innings. And Polanco's on the move, and he's in. Stolen base. Polanco is 26th.
Pretty aggressive play by the Pirates. Down 4. But he got away with it. Boy, quick tag by Baez. He's got such quick hands.
Marte has grounded out all 3 times. He's playing center today for McCutchen. Normally plays left, and he fouls off. Double digits in hits for both teams. The Cubs have 14. The Pirates have 10. Grimm set. At the waist. Not even a look at the runner. In the air to center. Fowler's going back. Now backpedaling and on the track. He's got it. Polanco to third, but 2 gone.
Good swing by Marte, but a hang with him. He's 0 for 4 now this afternoon as Travis Wood gets ready in the Cub bullpen.
Cardinals later tonight in Milwaukee. Right now with a 4-game lead over the Pirates, 7 ahead of the Cubs. So if they're scoreboard watching, they're rooting for the Cubs. They'd like to push the Pirates down as much as possible since they are their closest pursuer for the division. Cardinals will go for their 4th straight win tonight. Tommy Pham had a big night last night. 2 homers and a triple. Schwarber goes back. And he lays out, can't get it. It'll bounce out of play as Walker doubles in Polanco. Well, check that. Denorfia is into the game. Chris with the diving attempt. 9-6 now.
Walker just missed hitting a home run to left field in the ball game yesterday. This time a line shot over the head of Denorfia. He sells out trying to make a play, but nobody's going to get that one. Cubs have had some games get away from them late on this road trip. This is Justin's 5th appearance on the trip. He allowed runs in 3 of the previous 4. Including a 5-run outing the other day in Philadelphia. They were unearned, but he was not sharp. Walked 3.
Swing and a miss. 0-2. Swing and a miss. He got him on the curve. Inning over. They do get a couple. It's 9-6 as we go to the 8th.
Independent races in true HD quality on MLB.TV Premium. Watch every out-of-market game live on more than 400 supported devices. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking widget, and more. Visit MLB.TV today.
9-6 Cubs. Austin Jackson. 1 for 2. Pinch hit double and a run in the 5th. No, I checked that. He bounced into a 4-3 double play. That was Coughlin. See, that spot came up twice. I guess that's good when I get confused looking at my scorecard and the Cubs offensive innings. It was a power-packed 5th inning. 6 runs on 7 hits. 1 and 2.
Well, first 8 reached in that inning. Five different Cubs with 2 hits this afternoon. I guess the question is it enough?
Cahill, his first strikeout. Am I supposed to answer that one?
No, that was just a building drama for the final couple innings here.
Double play ball on the first. A run scored on that play. A walk in the 3rd. Go ahead 2-run homer in the 5th. A double in the 6th. Oh, 0-2 on Anthony. In the air, Snyder's coming over, and it is foul. Sliding attempt, couldn't get it, and it's a foul ball.
Yeah, a long way to go with Rizzo batting, and Snyder almost got there. It was almost fair, and that would have been a double for Rizzo. But you see there, clearly foul.
Wait a minute, you gave me two almosts. Doesn't that make a
double negative? Was? Double.
It's almost a half. Two halves make a whole, so I think it should have been fair, and he didn't catch it. Slide step in the pitch. It's outside. 1-2.
Pirates drawing a little over 30,000 per game here this year. Attendance is up.
28,228 in the house today. One other matinee going on. The A's and the White Sox are playing in Chicago. It's 1-1. Mike Olt, former Cub, has homered for the White Sox.
Attaboy, Mike. Good guy. Wish him well.
Yeah. That's 2 in 2 days for Olt. On a hop in the outfield, Walker gets Rizzo.
I think you're going to see, when you look at the numbers, and I'm sure there are numbers, I just don't have the time or the wherewithal to look them up right now, but year by year with shifting is going to impact left-handed hitters more than right-handed hitters because of that right there.
That gets by both defenders, and Bryant's going to try to make second, and he's in. Scahill, the pitcher, actually got there to apply the tag, but it was late.
Boy, that's the way to play the game right there. Third hit of the day, fourth time on base. He had 3 knocks yesterday.
It should be a double.
Yeah, absolutely. A hustle double for Chris Bryant. As the Cubs look to push that lead a little bit. Perfectly placed tweener got a piece of at least one, if not two, of those Pirate infielders, and Bryant eye on the ball all the time.
4 reaches. He's got 6 hits the last 2 days, and 4 of them have been doubles.
Well, they ruled they gave him a single and an error on the shortstop.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think that should have been a double all the way.
But anyway, so the left-handed pull hitters are going to be impacted more with the shifting because you can stick that right fielder out there in shallow right field and throw a guy out. You can't put your shortstop in shallow left field and throw out a right-handed hitter.
It's 3 errors on the Pirates today. Terrell will be intentionally walked with Russell on deck.
This game feels like one of those Friday the 13th movies, you know, where Jason just keeps coming back. You finally want to finish him off. This would be a good chance to finish off Jason here.
Strike 1 on Russell. And we almost saw a Scahill-Cahill matchup. I suppose we still could. Rob Scahill, right? Trevor Cahill. Back to the pitcher to end the inning. Cubs leave a couple. We go to the bottom of the 8th inning. It's 9-6 Cubs. To go, including this ball game. They're leading 9-6 here in the 8th, and after today the next 10 will be at Wrigley Field. And you see the Pirates and Cardinals both play more on the road than they will at home to finish up the season.
Travis Wood now pitching for the Cubs. A few days ago in Philadelphia, he got the start, a spot start. It was a bullpen day, and he pitched very good. 3 shutout innings in that outing. For the year, 5-4 with a 4.20.
Hey, they gave Chris Bryant a double.
It's a game of adjustments.
That was the right call. Cannot give a guy a single, but then the error on that particular play. So they got it right. Wood to Alvarez. Sean Rodriguez on deck.
A ball game in Philadelphia. Travis went 3 innings, allowed 3 hits, no runs, didn't walk anybody, and struck out 5.
So if you're the Pirates, I think, you know, their thought here is at some point they can get Andrew McCutchen into the game as a potential tying run. So he's kind of waiting and looming. And if you're the Cubs bullpen, you're trying to avoid that situation. Two and two on Alvarez. Swing and a miss. He struck him out.
Five strikeouts last time, and aggressive with the fastball here against Alvarez. That one clocked at 94 miles an hour.
Rodriguez for Scahill. 2 scoreless innings for Rob Scahill. Off-round Boyce did the same.
Yeah, their work has kept the Pirates in this ball game. And Hurdle also has a Ramos Ramirez on his bench. He's looking for a dangerous bat in a big situation here.
Cahill, the only Cub reliever currently throwing in the bullpen. Right back at it tomorrow at home against the Cardinals. Ground ball to Russell.
It's interesting watching Russell field that ball aggressively. He charges everything pretty much. And some infielders, and Castro's had this problem, and Chris Bryant at times earlier in the year, they get into that routine where they'll pat the ball and the glove together, and it'll cost them some extra time. Watch what Russell does here. Very conscious effort to make sure that doesn't happen. Gets it quickly and then pulls it out of his glove almost prematurely to make sure he doesn't fall into that bad habit.
One and one. Off the end of the bat, and he shot it right into the home dugout. Over Clint Hurdle's head. Clint just picked it up and tossed it to a fan in the front row. Outside Dave Joust, Chicago native, part of the Pirates coaching staff. Strike three called. Wood with a 1-2-3, 8th inning to the 9th, still 9-6. Sean Rodriguez, who just pinch hit, will remain in the ballgame and left. And Vance Worley, who pitched the 12th inning last night for the Pirates, gave up a run, took the loss. And will work the 9th here today.
He allowed a 1 run on 2 hits. Suffered his 6th loss to go along with 4 wins, a 3.86 ERA for Worley, who's working for the 22nd time. Big guy, 6'2", 250, throws across the body.
So Travis Wood will take the at bat. After a 1-2-3-8. Jason Mott has been stationed in that spot for the last 3 days. I don't know if he even went back to the team hotel. So with Travis Wood, a pitcher who has home run power at the plate. Should mention Jake Peavy homered last night in the Giants' 5-3 win over the Reds. Giants pitchers have hit 9 home runs combined. It's the most for a Giants staff since they hit 10 in 1934. Although I don't believe Madison Bumgarner was part of that particular staff in New York in 34.
No, probably not. How many does he have this year?
He's got to have about half of those, doesn't he?
Tim Hudson got one a start or 2 ago.
Polanco makes a catch. 5 homers for Bumgarner. He hit 4 last year.
Hal Schumacher hit 6 home runs for the 34 Giants. Prince Hal.
Ground ball under the glove of Worley, but Walker and safe. Alvarez tried to get him on the tag, and no argument from him to Chad Fairchild. So Baez is on.
Be the 3rd error of the day for the Pirates. 2nd charge to Neil Walker. Nope, they're going to give him a base hit. I stand corrected. I think that's a little hometown love for Walker. Nice evasive action by Baez.
And he's fortunate he didn't sprain an ankle. A high five from a Cub fan in the front row. Fowler pops it up. That is Mercer in foul territory to make the catch. One adjustment we broadcasters have had to make over the last 2 or 3 years is trying to identify which infielder it is in a shift going after foul pop-ups. And basically Mercer was playing 3rd, but he's the shortstop. And I would love to tell you that I survey the entire infield before every pitch to figure out who's playing where, but I don't.
Yeah, and the names are on the back of the jersey, not the front, so sometimes it's hard to tell anyway who's where out there when they go into their shift.
Baez takes off. Denorfia fouls.
Denorfia a knockoff Worley last night to get the winning rally started.
Fernando Rodney is up. Yeah, I think of all the things Clint Hurdle could be disappointed about today, I think his defense would be number one on his list. Up the middle and a base hit. And I would say most managers on a day like this would feel that way. One thing to be beaten by a good team, but when you feel like you give them extra chances, it always sticks in your craw.
Yeah, and then clearly Charlie Morton, the starter, wasn't good, but it's a combination, pitching and defense, and a lot of times it goes hand in hand, good and bad. Bad pitching, bad defense could lead to a big day for the opposition, and that's the storyline here today. Cubs have banged out 17 hits. Pirates have been committed 2 errors, but there's been a number of other misplays.
And for a while there early, the Cubs had not taken full advantage of those opportunities before really blowing the doors open in this 5th inning. Put up 6 runs in that frame. Jackson bounces foul.
Charlie Morton charged with 6 runs, 5 earned. Alvarez made an error in that inning.
One ball, 2 strike count on Jackson. Before we sign off today, got to give our every 5th day Shelby Miller update. Another winless start for him last night. It was a 9-1 loss to the Blue Jays. He did not get out of the 4th. That's 22 consecutive winless starts and 14 losses in a row for Shelby Miller. Out into right center, caught by Polanco. Bottom 9, Cubs lead 9-6. Skip Ellison, our associate producer Keon Dolichahi, and Joe Pizzo, our studio coordinator back at WGN. We don't know if any of them have gone up or down that incline either.
I guarantee you Mark Brady hasn't.
That's a good point. It's not his cup of tea.
Not unless you knocked him out and put a bag over his head.
Pulled foul, way foul by Harrison. So if Wood finishes this game, he would get a save.
Yeah, it would be his second save. His very first save came in his first relief appearance this year. It was against the Pirates way back on May 16th. Deserved a 4-1 Cubs win in that one.
Swing and a miss, strike three. Montero to Rizzo, 1 out. Four batters faced, 3 strikeouts so far for Wood.
About an hour after this game ends, the Cubs will head to the airport, jump on the charter, return home to start a homestand with the Cardinals tomorrow afternoon. And barring a big comeback here by the Pirates, they will be just 2 games behind Pittsburgh for that first wild card spot.
One and one to Stewart.
Suspect we'll have some pretty enthusiastic crowds over the weekend.
He went around. Welcome back to Jorge Soler. Activated off the DL today. Returns from his minor league rehab assignment with Myrtle Beach. Swing and a miss. Back-to-back Ks to start the 9th. There's Polanco. Let's head out to the West Coast. Date with the Dodgers. And it'll be Jeff Locke and Zach Greinke tomorrow night. Francisco Liriano, Clayton Kershaw Saturday evening. One ball, one strike. In there. 1-2. Shadowed the light standard over home plate. Just about everything else in the sun. See Rizzo also in the shade. 2-2.
These two teams will meet in Chicago at the end of the Cubs' next homestand. September 25, 6, and 7. And then the Pirates come home for Cardinals Reds to finish the season.
Swing and a miss. He just struck out the side. Cubs win. Cubs win 9-6 the final. So they score 9 runs to get their magic number down to 9 on good old Channel 9.
Yeah, and this series had been dominated by pitching, but the Cubs broke out the bats in a big way here this afternoon. 9 runs on 17 hits. Pirates continued to push, but ultimately the Cubs able to finish him off. Good work by Clayton Richard. He'll pick up the win, and Travis Wood picks up his second save.
Back home we go, and we'll have more from Pittsburgh in a moment.